Welcome, everyone, to Movie Goodness, where we examine life through cinema here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and everybody, I need everybody to relax. I need everybody to just take a breath, just sit back and relax. And I'm saying everybody because I can't point to every individual or single out every individual that are pulling their hair out, that are marching in the streets in frustration over a Grammy win. I don't get that. But this has been, and I don't know. It's something wrong with me mentally. It's some type of chemical imbalance in my brain. I don't know. But I found this to be the most hilarious thing to ever get mad at. And people just pick things to get mad at. A carton of eggs is $10. Instead of people being upset about that, you're mad because a black woman won Country Album of the Year at an award show that I'm going to say 75% of people didn't even watch, don't even care about. Nobody I know watches the Grammys. I haven't watched the Grammys in well over 15 years. It don't make sense. It just don't make sense to watch the Grammys because there's nothing exciting about the Grammys. That's just me. You know, I know there are people who do watch the Grammys, and there are people who hold the Grammys to a high esteem. Cool. Good for you. Good for you. I'm glad that you find joy in that. But you're not getting anything out there. The artists are, I would guess, yeah, the music artists who win these awards. Yes, this is something that they're awarded for putting in hard work, these projects that they put out for your entertainment and blood, sweat, and tears, going out on tours, all of the interviews and whatnot. It's a lot of work that goes into an album for these artists. So they deserve their pat on the back, and their pat on the back is a Grammy. It's just like in the Hollywood side of things. Their pat on the back is the Academy Awards. Good on them. Happy for them. But what brought me so much joy was watching all these people online, on Twitter and whatnot, just going crazy because Beyonce won Country Album of the Year at the Grammys. I don't see what the big brouhaha was. I just don't get it. You know, she won Country Album of the Year. Now, let me say this, and I know, I know I'm going to get a lot of venom for what I'm about to say, but listen to what I'm saying. Just listen. I'm not the biggest Beyonce fan. I'm not, putting her on the pedestal of one of the greatest artists of all time list. I don't see her as that. Do I think she's a good singer? Yes, she has a beautiful voice. Performer, awesome performer. Do I put her up there with just the greats? No, I can't. And I like her music. She has put out some bops. She had put out some bops back in the day. Even now, even on this album, Country Carter, there's a couple of songs on there that I actually like. I like Texas Hold'em. I like 16 Carriages. I like a couple of songs on it. So I don't hate Beyonce. Please, Beehive, relax. Relax. I'm not poo-pooing on Beyonce. I'm just saying I'm not the greatest of Beyonce fans. I'll leave it at that before I get in more trouble. But in any event, with that being said, this was a deep personal album of hers. And I will say this, as somebody who is not blinded by the fandom of her, I would say this isn't her best album. I really didn't too much care. Like I said, I only had like 2 or 3 songs on that album. The rest were all right. I mean, it wasn't the greatest. I I liked Lemonade better. The Lemonade album was really good. What was the other album that I super enjoyed? I can't remember now. But anyway, this wasn't her greatest album. Of course, with that being said, I'm not the biggest country fan. I'm not a country music fan at all. Just put that out there straight up. There are country music songs that I like, but I would never just straight up, oh man, let me put on this Toby Keith song or whatever. No, that's not me. I'm if I hear a country song that I enjoy, trust me, I've heard it on accident. I didn't know I didn't know until maybe 2 or 3 months in, after listening to the song 3 or 4 times, that Tipsy was sung by a black dude. Didn't know Shabuzi. I didn't know Shabuzi was black. I didn't know. I didn't know. I just thought it was a little poppy country music song, But hey, I felt it was a bop though. And when I found out that the guy was black, like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because it got a little soul to it. It got a little hip to the hop. Yeah, I like Shabuzi. But in any event, uh people are all up in arms. They're all up in arms about this crowning of this album of Country Carter becoming best country album at the Grammys this year. I mean, some of the vitriol that I read, some of the comments that I read from these people, and it's white folks. We're not going to sugarcoat it here. It's white folks that are hot about this, and it's like, man, why is this even a thing? Why is this even, you know, something that y'all even worry about? I don't know, man. Life must be really, really good on that side of the fence. It's If that's your biggest problem, that will occupy that much time in your life, that whereas you have to be a keyboard warrior or a Twitter thug, and just comment and tweet and all this other stuff. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, who cares? Nothing you're gonna do can stop the fact that this young lady won the award. Now, do I think there's some shenanigans on how she won the award? Yeah. Yeah, I'll say that. And it's nothing against her. It's nothing against her album. It's just the Grammys, period. That's why I stopped watching the Grammys, because the voting process is stupid. Every year you can set your watch to it. Every year, the best new artist is always somebody you have never heard from before and you never hear again. You only hear their name that year. The only artist that I know of that has won best new artist and has some semblance of a career after the fact would be and I'm blanking on the name now. It's the rapper Macklemore. That's the only one I know. And the only reason I know that is because he beat Kendrick Lamar that year. Or he beat Kendrick Lamar. And it was so bad. It was so bad of a vote that when Macklemore went up there and accepted his award, he said Kendrick Lamar should have won. So that lets you know right then and there that there's something wrong with this award. It's something very wrong. And so with Beyonce winning this award, yeah, it's just hard for me to look at that and say it's legitimate. And that goes for the Grammys, period. And all of these award shows, let's be real, it's all about making statements. It's all about making political statements at times. And I don't know, it just then turned into a movie. And I don't like it. I just don't like it. But that's besides the point. We're gonna go over this Beyonce country album of the Year award and the backlash behind it, and even touch in a little bit about the Sabusi situation surrounding the CMA, the CMAs, the Country Music Awards this past year, and the controversy behind all that. Due to all that, our movie that we're going to review at the end of the show will be a classic. 50 years, well, 51 years this year of 51. I can't believe this movie is 51 years old. I cannot believe it, because that lets me, all that does is tell me that I'm about to turn 50 in a couple of years. And I don't know, I'm about to lose my mind. I'm about to have an anxiety attack thinking about that. But the 1974 absolute classic comedy, Blazing Saddles, which I've been waiting for years, since I started this podcast, for an opportunity to review this movie, and couldn't find the right subject to jump into it with. And voila. Thank you, Beyonce. I guess she is a queen in my eyes today. And so that'll be our film today. But first, let's jump into this Beyonce situation. And now, at the Grammy Awards, Taylor Swift, of all people, Taylor Swift beat Beyonce a couple of times, I think, for Album of the Year in past Grammy Awards. And we all know the infamous Kanye West moment when he stole the mic from Taylor Swift, and he said and he said that Beyonce had the greatest album of all time and all this here, pretty much poo-pooing on Taylor Swift moment or whatever. And so we know the history behind it. Now, there was never any beef with, at least as far as I know, between Taylor Swift and Beyonce. That was Kanye being Kanye. And so it was ironic. It was symbolic even that Taylor Swift announced that Cowboy Carter won Best Country Album at the Grammys this year. And so Beyonce, I will say this, Beyonce looked shocked. Now, was it an act shock? Because it was kind of like, I don't know. It just looked like bad acting type shock. Like, what happened? You know, I'm pretty sure she was shocked a little bit, because she's been snubbed so many times. And especially when in this category, when she wasn't even nominated at the CMAs, which is the Country Music Awards. Yeah, I guess she is shocked, or was shocked at that moment. And so she now, that being said, she's not a stranger to winning Grammys. Let's not forget that Beyonce holds the record for most Grammy wins. She has a grand total of 32 trophies from the Grammys, and that includes this year's crop that she took home. But her reaction, it seemed that she had an unexpected reaction, coming out of this genre, winning for this album. And this was her 8th album, Country Carter. This is her 8th album, and she has described Country Carter as her most ambitious and deeply personal album. And I can get that, and I can see where her influences come from. A lot of influences come from different genres of music, so that's not weird. But why would she be surprised? Despite earning more nominations at this year's Grammy Awards than any other album, Country Carter was largely ignored, as I said before, by Nashville's Music Row, and excluded from another major awards show just this past November at the 58th annual CMAs. So that omission ignited a long-running conversation about country music's ever-present diversity issues amongst their fans, amongst their artists, amongst the journalists that covered this genre of music. And the criticism also pointed to the show's overwhelmingly white roster of nominees. Now, there are people of color in the country music genre. It isn't just Beyonce who snuck in there and put out an album. Like I mentioned earlier, Shabuzi. You have Darius Rucker in there. There are what's the other one? Big Rich, I think his name. Yeah, there are some black country artists, but they don't win none. I think Big Rich has won before, but other than that, it's very few and far between when it comes to diversity at these CMAs. They feel that it is their music, and these are comments that I was reading. Now, I'm not just making this stuff up. This is our music. Who is our? Just say what it is. It's white music. Just say is white music. But if you really want to cut to the bone of it, black people. Black people created country music. It wasn't white people. So do your history. It's Black History Month. Do your Googling. Go ahead and do your research. Black people created country music. But it's our music. I hear y'all. But the Recording Academy, which is the Grammys, they also work through issues as well. In the last couple of years. In 2018, the former chairman, Neil Portnow, responded to female artists seeking a greater commitment to equality from the organization by saying they need to step up if they want their work to be taken seriously. And so 3 years later, this went around. So 3 years later, The Weeknd, hope everybody know who The Weeknd is. Love him. Big fan of The Weeknd. He announced that he was boycotting. He was going to boycott the Grammys, which he did. He stopped going to the Grammys, citing a lack of transparency about their voting and their inadequate diverse efforts. And so the Academy took critiques. They took this criticism seriously. And so at this past week's Grammy Awards, the CEO of the Recording Academy, Harvey Mason Jr., he took to the stage and addressed efforts the Academy had made in recent years to improve diversity and representation among voters and recognize artists, using his speech to set up a surprise performance from The Weeknd that was meant to underscore the progress they had already made. And he shared real metrics reflecting the process. And so that's a plus. That gives me a little encouragement about this win for Beyonce. But like I said, I didn't watch the ceremony, but it's good to hear that all this happened. It's good to hear that The Weeknd ended his boycott and showed up at the awards and performed. So that's great that they're moving in the right direction. But going back to the good old boy awards, going back to the CMAs. Now, after all of this backlash that the CMAs got for not even nominating, just straight up snubbing Country Carter from their award ceremony, the co-host and a longtime country star in his own right, Luke Bryan, he felt the need to go on a talk show and discuss it. He went on Andy Cohen Live a couple of months ago and discussed the issue. He suggested that Beyonce herself is responsible for the snub, saying, if you're going to make country albums, come into our world and be country with us a little bit. Come to an award show and high five us and have fun and get in the family too. What is he talking about? That is the dumbest thing ever. What they got to do with anything? What they got to do with the album being what it is? If the album was good and worthy of a nomination, I ain't saying it was or it wasn't. Why wasn't it just nominated? Obviously, it was good enough because he's saying in so many words, it wasn't the work. Apparently, the album was all right. He's blaming Beyonce herself. He's saying she's responsible because she didn't come down to Nashville and hang out with all the other country music stars and all that. What that got to do with anything? But let's let's keep it transparent here. Let's keep it a buck. They're not, they don't care, because let's not forget that Taylor Swift at one time was a country music artist. Taylor Swift put out a pop album, and it won country, I think best country album at the Grammys too, if I'm not mistaken, a few years back. This is before she went full pop. And boy, Nashville was hot. Nashville kicked her out. She didn't do, that's why she switched to pop, because Nashville had turned their backs on her, because uh she went to the other side basically. Well, she obviously, she's not hurting from it. I think she's better for it. But that is crazy, man. Why, what is this tribalism when it comes to country music? It's not that hot of music. I don't get it. I went in my pickup truck and I what, like, come on, man. Who listens to that and think those are bops? Why is this a big thing? Why do y'all feel that this is the greatest genre of music that uh that God put on earth? It's like, it's, they act like Jesus himself blessed country music. Just touched Nashville and made this uh uh invisible force field dome around this city, whereas it's all the country music comes from here. If it doesn't come from here, it's not country music or whatever. I don't know. But it's just crazy that this tribalism exists in a genre of music. Unbelievable. Perhaps the mind of a country boy uh is prone to amnesia. Maybe he wasn't thinking clearly, because as Beyonce infamously did come to the CMA Awards in 2016, as she performed her Lemonade standout Daddy Lessons alongside my wife's favorite country music group, the Chicks. And so and I forgot about that. Yes, the Chicks, who were formerly known as the Dixie Chicks, they they are the only country artists that I listen to. I actually went to a the Chicks concert in Las Vegas with my wife. Big Chicks fan. And I like the Chicks, mainly because my wife played them all the time. But I like their music. But anywho's, yes, she did come to the CMAs, perform that record with a legitimate country music artist, well, artists, this group. And so he must have forgot. Or he was in the back. Maybe he went to the bathroom and he missed it. It's a possibility. But that performance was the kind of cross-genre collaboration the CMAs typically love to manufacture. Post Malone showed up at the CMAs, among others. I mean, it's not like artists have not, got together with the country music artists and performed before and showed up at their awards. It's hypocritical, man. I can't stand hypocrites. It just, I don't know. It does something to me. It makes me itch. Now, jumping into these folks, these artists, these country artists that just unleashed all sorts of venom over this win. Big and Rich, that's who I was trying to think of earlier. Big and Rich, who are country music stars, they added fuel to this backlash when Beyonce won Best Country Album at the Grammys. While some country stars have expressed their beliefs that country is for everyone, even those who are not traditional country singers, others like Rich, think the Recording Academy outed themselves as pushing an agenda. Rich of Big and Rich, he went on social media. He said there's no way Beyonce's album was better than Lainey Wilson's Windmill album. Lainey Wilson is a country music star. But anyways, I don't get it, he wrote. Record labels make deals on the votes. That was his response. Some naysayers believe Beyonce's shock expression at the Grammy Awards. Pretty sure everybody has seen the meme or the photo of her reaction to when her name was announced. It was pretty genuine because she didn't know that her husband, Jay-Z, paid for the award. Hmm. This belief apparently stems from remarks he made previously when he called out the Grammys for never awarding Album of the Year to his wife, despite her holding the record for most Grammy wins and nominations overall than any other artist in history. Jay-Z is quoted in the past by saying Beyonce has more Grammys than anyone and never won Album of the Year. Some of you will feel like you are robbed. Some of you will get robbed. Some of you don't belong in the category. That's a quote from Jay-Z. Meanwhile, Beyonce acceptance speech echoed some of her husband's sentiments. She went on to say in her speech, "Sometimes I think genre is a cold word to keep us in our places as artists," she said. "I just want to encourage people to do what they're passionate about, to stay persistent." And I couldn't agree with her more. That is true. You know, why well, we say genre, but it's really segregation. Look at it in the terms of segregation. Stay in your lane. That's basically what's being said. Stay in your lane by a certain group of people. This isn't for you. This the white only water fountain. Don't drink from there. That's what they're saying. But regardless, congratulations to Beyonce. Congratulations to the Beehive on that win. That is a huge win. That is a big win. I don't care how it happened, what happened, if it was paid for, if it was fabricated votes or whatever. I don't care at this point. At least she won. At least she got the victory and kind of put a stain on the way of thinking of a lot of people, because it was just a shoe in that a lot of people, and going by the comments and the reaction from country stars themselves, who say that, oh, she didn't even belong in this category. I disagree, because like I said, the couple of songs that I enjoyed on the album are definitive country songs. They are they're country songs, and they're good songs. And so now I didn't listen to the other albums, so I really can't give a fair assessment if her album was the best, better than the others in that category. I can't, but that goes for every other category in the awards. I, I may have my favorite rap album, like for instance, huge Kendrick Lamar fan, huge Kendrick Lamar fan. So happy he won. I think he won 5 Grammys this year. Good on him. But this wasn't his best album. I feel his best album was To Pimp a Butterfly. And I don't know how many awards he won that year when Pimp a Butterfly came out, but that's besides the point. The point I'm trying to make, I don't know what all of the rap artists that was in that category that he won in, and I sure didn't listen to all of them, because the older I get, I guess the older I get, I don't listen to a lot of music now. I listen to a lot of podcasts and stuff. And so I can't tell you what the hottest thing in the streets right now. You know, I'm not in tuned to what's happening right now. If my daughters aren't playing it, I don't know what's happening. I'm lost. I'm stuck. So, and that's how I found out a lot. That's how I end up listening to Beyonce's album a while back when it came out. But anywho's, good on her. People need to grow up. There are more things to worry about. I mean, serious things to worry about other than an album getting an award. That is stupid. you know, if your favorite artist didn't win, that's fine. I can understand you getting upset. If you're a big fan of Lainey Wilson, okay, I can understand you being a little down. Like if that album was your album of the summer, that got you through the summer, that got you through a breakup, got you through depression, got you through whatever, you will consider that the greatest album of all time. So I get it. but that goes for everybody. It goes for everybody, so in every album. So you got to put things in its proper perspective. But anywho's, yes, Beyonce, best country album for her 8th studio album, Country Carter. Uh, I ain't gonna lie. After she won, I went back. I went on Spotify and I started listening to a to a couple of them songs. And I was like, yeah, I'm digging it now. It just brings an extra spice to it. But good on her. And so now let's dive into our movie review that is kind of related to this subject. Really didn't have a subject, or well, really didn't have a film that fits this narrative that we're talking about, but it kind of does, because this movie, Blazing Saddles, which came out in 1974, is about a black man back in that time, not in 74, but during the Western era, uh, and then becomes the sheriff, and he's the only black man in his town, and he's a fish out of water, and all insanity ensues. So that's basically Beyonce, uh, being a fish out of water in this genre of music called country. And so I say, you know what? It fits, plus country western, it fits. And so, yeah, Blazing Saddles, man, 51 years old. My God, a satirical western. It was directed by the great Mel Brooks. It was written by Andrew Bergman, Richard Pryor, Norman Steinberg, and Alan Unger. This film stars Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder. Now, a little backstory. This pretty much came from Richard Pryor. This was his idea to an extent. And the idea was for Richard Pryor to star in the Cleavon Little role. This was his movie. The studio got scared because Richard Pryor is at this time, he's the stand-up comedian, very vulgar, not safe for work material that he performs on stage. Didn't really want him to star in this film. Plus, he had some behind the scenes stuff that he do, in his personal life with the drugs and all this other stuff. Didn't really want to get into business with Richard Pryor in that fashion. So he was just credited as the writer, one of the writers of this film, and that's how Cleavon Little got the role. And quite honestly, I would have loved to have seen Richard Pryor in this role, because it just would have been that much greater, because it's Richard Pryor. But Cleavon Little was phenomenal in this role. Gene Wilder, we know that Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor, multiple movies together. Their team ups were some of the best from when I was growing up, even though a lot of them was before, just like this movie, before I was born, but I saw them when I got old enough and snuck and watched them. But I remember Gene Wilder and Richard Pryor and Stir Crazy. What's the one where they were blind? One was blind and one was deaf. That was funny. There was another one they were in, and I'm blanking on it. But anywho's, love when they teamed up together in the film. Also starring in this film, you have Slim Pickens, Don DeLuise, and Madeline Kahn, who is probably one of my earliest crushes on film. I had a thing for Madeline Kahn. But yeah, this film went on to be nominated for 3 Academy Awards and is today considered a comedy classic. It ranks 6th on the American Film Institute's 100 Years, 100 Laughs list. It was deemed culturally, historically significant by the Library of Congress, and it was selected for preservation in the National Film Registry in 2006, and it deserves every accolade that it receives. This film is one of the funniest movies I have ever seen. This movie is probably the one film. You know, we live in an era now of sequels and reboots and remakes and all this here. They could never remake this movie for a number of reasons. Number one, it's a classic. It's no point touching it. It's like trying to remake Godfather. It doesn't make sense. Why? What can you add to perfection? You know, and it's the same thing with Blazing Saddles. What can you add to perfection? This movie is perfect. Uh, The other reason, it is no way in 2025 you can make a movie with the level of humor that is in this movie and not have people picketing in front of movie theaters. This is the most racist, inappropriate film you ever want to see. But that's what makes it funny. It really turns a mirror. It wasn't racist like in the fact that it wasn't like uh uh a Ku Klux Klan propaganda film. I'm not saying that form of racist. It was the racist jokes, the kind of humor that was I guess you could say acceptable back then. That's not acceptable now. It's no way you can make this movie in 2025. So it came it came out at the right time. And there's a number of films that came out, I would say, within this little 10, 15-year period where it was just completely inappropriate. In involving Richard Pryor, my mind gravitates to The Toy. I remember growing up watching The Toy with Richard Pryor and Jackie Gleason in it. And I love that movie. I thought it was the funniest movie ever, as a little kid. And as I got older, and I guess, dare I say, wiser, I'm like, man, this is the most racist movie I've ever seen in my life. They actually made a movie about you buying a slave in modern times. You know what I'm saying? It's so crazy to think that, man, there's no way they can make this movie in 2025. But yeah, it was crazy. Another film comes to mind, Soul Man, that stars C. Thomas Howell. Love that movie. I think I went to the theater to see that either with my brother or my sister. Because there's no other reason why I would go see that at the theater. But I remember going to see it in the theater, had to be with one of my older siblings. And I thought it was pretty funny. White man in blackface the entire movie. But nobody thought of it. Nobody thought anything offensive by it. And nah. And you think about it now. Nah, there's no way. There's no way they can remake that movie. Uh, Even though you could probably point to Tropic Thunder with Robert Downey Jr. playing a black man that whole movie, which I enjoyed. And I enjoyed Robert Downey Jr. in that movie. Loved him. And yeah, inappropriate. But I think that's it was right on the line, the cutoff line, when you can make movies like that. Because we haven't seen good comedies since then. Every now and then, sprinkle then, you catch a good little funny movie in recent years, but nothing to the level of what we got back in the late 70s and 80s and 90s and stuff. They were just doing stuff. They were just doing stuff to do stuff. But in any event, Blazing Saddles, one of the greatest comedies of all time. Every scene is hilarious. Every scene. If you know Mel Brooks, who is like a comedy icon, this guy has directed, of course, Blazing Saddles. He directed Spaceballs and History of the World Part 1 and so many more. And he also produced The Fly with Jeff Goldblum. A lot of people don't know that, but he produced that among other films that he took his name off of because he didn't want to confuse audiences into thinking it was a comedy because that's what he's known for. But he produced a lot of dramas and horror films and stuff like that. back in the day, but he took his name off it. It's so it wouldn't be a confusion. But this dude is a phenomenal director, still up and kicking, running around running around now. I think he directed something recently, and I think if I'm not mistaken, Mel Brooks is in his 90s. As a matter of fact, if he makes it to June, God spare, he'll be 99 years old. And he just made a movie. I want to say last year or maybe the year before, History of the World Part 2, not a movie, but that little mini series they had on Hulu. He directed some of those episodes. I mean, the dude hasn't stopped. Phenomenal filmmaker. But our stars of this film, Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder, great chemistry. This was Cleavon Little's first movie. He was a Broadway star, so he didn't really know how to act on camera. So Gene Wilder really helped him. They became really good friends in real life, working on this film, and he helped him out. And you can't tell. I mean, well, I'll take that back. You can tell that he was a little stiff, he was a little stiff with his performance, but it worked for the character. It worked for the character. But deep down, if you watch it now, knowing what if a cinephile and you really look at movies for what they are, you know that he was a little stiff in his performance because this was his first time in front of the camera working. And like I said, they found the way to make it work. Gene Wilder as this alcoholic gunslinger. That was that was great casting. I said before about Madeline Kahn. Man, she got one of those 3 Academy Award nominations was for her, and she almost stole the movie. Well, I would say she stole the movie. She was that good as this character. Loved her in the film. The scenes, the little gags. Yes, this movie is full of gags, but that was comedies back then. Now we're spoiled. We want story, we want dialogue, we want everything laid out for us. In this movie, it was just gags. It was gag, but it pushed the story along. The scene, I would say a classic scene that everybody remembers from Blazing Saddles. It will be the campfire scene. The campfire scene with the guys eating beans. I don't know what it is, but that it still makes me laugh to this day. How hilarious that scene is. The scene with Cleavon Little and Madeline Kahn. They turned off the lights or whatever. They about to do the boom shoe, and she was like, "Oh, is it true what they say?" And you hear the lights are off; it's pitch black, but you hear them talking and moving around. All of a sudden, you hear the zipper. It's like it's true. It's true. This movie is so good. I mean, everything about it worked. It was so stupid, but stupid in a good way. Yes, it's racist. It's offensive in a lot of ways, but not offensive to the point where black people are looked upon as less than, because Cleavon Little's character gets the win. He's the hero at the end. He gets our antagonist of this film gets their comeuppance, and it was a payoff. It was good to watch. I really do consider this one of the greatest comedies of all time. Blazing Saddles and Airplane and Naked Gun are, I would say, my top 3 comedies of all time. It can't be touched. I love those films to this day. I can watch them from beginning to end like they're brand new, like I'm watching it for the first time. Every single time. I absolutely love them, and I love this movie so much. Blazing Saddles from the year 1974 gets a letter grade of an A+. I really have zero problems with this movie. There's nothing about this movie that's bad. Even the parts that you can acknowledge are dated. Yes, it's dated. It's a 50-year-old movie, but it still works. Everything works. I just love it. Now, if you're young, I would say a millennial, and you haven't watched these type of movies, and you pop in and watch this, you probably not gonna like it because this isn't your typical comedy. This is don't care. There's no handcuffs. There's no brick wall in front of you type of comedy. This is everything laid out there on the table type of comedy. And that's the type of comedy I like. I'm often reminded of showing my daughters The Thing a few years back because we were talking horror movies and they asked what would I consider one of the greatest horror movies? And I said The Thing. That movie still freaks me out to this day. And they're like, oh, we never saw it, blah, blah, blah. Of course, yeah. So we went, we watched it, and it was one of those days I was tired, and I fell asleep watching it. And once I fell asleep, they tuned out, and that was it. They're like, man, the movie wasn't even good. You fell asleep on it. I'm like, well, I was tired. It wasn't because the movie was boring. I put it on so y'all can watch it. I really wasn't paying attention to it. So, but they weren't feeling it. And it still baffles my mind. I can't understand how y'all weren't freaked out by this movie. And so it's a generational thing. And so it's the same thing with Blazing Saddles. I think it's more of a generational thing. I don't know if this will be received to younger people. They'll probably be quickly offended by this movie. But I don't care. It's great. It is great. Don't miss out on Blazing Saddles. But as we said earlier, Miss Beyonce, the Queen Bee, congratulations for winning Best Country Album. Among others, I think she won. Did she win Album of the Year? Like I said, I didn't watch the awards, but the big brouhaha is because she won Country Album of the Year. But all her awards, congratulations to the Beehive and Beyonce and Jay-Z, Blue and Blue Ivy and the other children. And congratulations to them all. I'm happy, because you pissed off the establishment, and that's all you could ask for these days. It feels good that we get a win. But I would love to know if you're a country music fan and you're still listening, which I doubt. If you're a country music fan and so happen to still be listening, I would love to know what you feel or let me rephrase that, how you feel about Beyonce winning Best Country Album for Country Carter this year at the Grammys. Are you upset or are you like, okay? Or did you not even listen to that? I bet you $1 million that a lot of people who are mad right now that she won didn't even listen to the album. I bet you money that they didn't listen to it. But I would love to know your thoughts. Email the show, kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. You can comment on all of those platforms if you would like to. Also, don't forget about the YouTube channel. Subscribe to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube and like this video if you don't mind. Don't forget about the 5 stars, the reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to movie goodness here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me as we discussed Beyonce's big win at the Grammys and the review of Blazing Saddles. Want you all to know that I love you. Continue to love everyone. And until we speak again, you all be blessed.